Hi, this is Maria,
And this is Sheila,
and we want to welcome you to The Moms I Know.
Homeschool Edition.
We're so excited to bring this series of episodes focused on homeschooling. We're going to talk to you about what homeschooling is, whether this is right for your family, how to do it, and lots more.
So stay tuned.
It's not our job to toughen our children up to face a cruel and heartless world. It's our job to raise children who will make the world a little less cruel and heartless. L.R. Nost.
I love that quote, and that really sets the tone for what we're talking about today because, here we are, episode 3 in this homeschooling series, and it's like, okay, you're really thinking about this. You're considering, can I homeschool? But you have your doubts. And today we will talk a little bit about overcoming objections, overcoming obstacles, handling those kinds of things that come up, and share a few stories.
Yeah. When I think about those years that I decided to stay home and homeschool, it was not without how am I contributing? You know what I mean? Like, what am I doing? And I really believe that I was I don't want to say building, but helping shape children of the 21st century, being involved in the community, being involved in our homeschool community, and really showing my children that it matters if you show up, and
that's so true.
And that's the beauty of homeschooling, is that you're fully invested, you're fully intentional. And I think those feelings really need to drive you as a parent to choose to homeschool, because you will come up with objections from yourself, from your spouse, from your family, from your community, from, a shift in paradigm. I think we've talked about this, Maria, like when you choose to homeschool, similar, like if you've chosen to home birth, or if you choose things differently, you're an outlier. So you need to have a strong conviction that this is what you want, because you want the world to be a better place.
And I think that we both expressed the fact that we went through that paradigm shift for ourselves. And, neither of us came to homeschooling really solidly in it philosophically at the beginning, but we built along the way and then seeing. And so that's why we feel so strongly about doing these episodes, where we can really share with our listeners about the trials that we went through, the challenges that we faced, the obstacles that we had to overcome, the inner voices, the outer voices, the doubts, the this, the that, and then also this awareness that we just don't know. I mean, if we had left them in school, how would they have turned out? If we continued to homeschool all the way through, how would things have been different? And we can't go back. And that's one of the beauties of life, and also the challenges of life, is that, we can't change anything that has occurred. We can only look at how do we handle these things. And it's an unknown, and yet we're here to kind of guide and to hopefully model and to be supportive on this journey.
Yeah, to mentor, and I look at you, because so many times after we'd have our monthly meetings, which were so important to me, because those were those times where I remember, and I'll be totally honest, I don't want to say threatening my child, but saying, do you want to go to the public school? Because we're not homeschooling. We're this is the reality piece. This is fully transparent of saying, I'm on the phone right now, and I know that's not positive discipline, and I know, the bad parenting police, but it's just, that's the realities of you getting so frustrated. And I'd come into a meeting with you, Maria, and you would see me as a teacher, as a parent, and you would say, you're doing just fine. And so that's why homeschooling, you need to have your mentors, and you need to have your guides in this, whether, in your community or online, because it's not easy.
your support system. But I think that, nothing is easy in parenting. And so we need to have other moms and dads to talk to say, oh my gosh, are you dealing with this? But that's part of parenting, and having parenting groups and all of that. And so I really can relate to that. And, at a certain point, we actually did send our kids back to school. And so, I don't think of it as really a threat, as a more of, what is going to work in this situation. And of course, if the children are just, miserable in homeschooling, that's not going to be effective as as well. And so, we really have to look at the needs of the whole family. And so this is a family decision. But, when you're faced with a grandparent or a neighbor or people in the store saying, you're doing what? You're homeschooling? And what about this? And what about that? And so I think that one of the things that we're talking about is this, just really doing your research, really coming to your own understanding of why you are doing this, and then knowing in your heart that this is the right decision for this time and this stage of your child's life, and that it doesn't have to be forever, but it might be the perfect answer for right now, for the stage that they're at, or for, there was a year when we pulled our kids out for just 1 year to have more family time when they were older. And it was a lovely interlude. And so, homeschooling in the early years and then finding other things. And so, it's a philosophy of life and living. And so I just love that we can talk about these, but, these objections come up.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And we're talking about there's the starting out homeschooling, the elementary school homeschooling, but when you look at the high school homeschooling, I think at that point you really need to have the buy-in of your student, of your child. You really need to have them be part of the conversation, and that's up to you and how your family works, but how early are they going to be part of that conversation? Because it is a year-to-year conversation of learning and kind of other factors, jobs, parent going back to work, et cetera, et cetera. So some of the objections that I've heard along the years, when I say, oh, I'm a homeschool teacher, I could never do that because I'm not credentialed. I don't have a credential. And so Maria and I, we both have our credentials. However, we have seen so many parents with, you have the homeschool parent with a high school diploma, and you have the homeschool parent with a PhD. And like we said, it's just like, as long as you're well-intentioned, you're going to be fine. So we've seen that. And when you have two working parents, it is a challenge. And I think when you have two working parents, you need to have somebody coming in to support. You need to have a great schedule, and you need to have somebody helping you. I think whether it's a family member or like a mother's helper or somebody there to pull together the strings and kind of keep the learning as a priority.
Well, I've seen, and I think we've both seen networking families too, a couple of families coming together to really create a schedule that works for all of the children. And they're looking at, the children's best interests, and the kids enjoy being together and learning together. And sometimes the parent has certain talents or gifts that they can share with the group of children. So I think that networking can really help when there's a single parent or two parent working family. Yeah. That whole concept of finances, we can't afford to homeschool our kids. Well, we've seen so many families make that decision to sacrifice a little bit for their child's education in terms of being able to have that time together as a family. So that one, I've seen overcome in so many different ways.
Yeah, I think you see the learning co-ops when that happens. You see curriculum. Well, you have the option, because you can do a charter school that basically there's some online charter schools as well as charter schools that you're going to get funds from the state. In order to get funds from the state, you actually have to do state testing, and you have to, there's certain parameters around that. But there is a way that you can design your child's own education with the help of a homeschool teacher. That's what I do, to plan your child's learning. They're also, for financially, it is hard, but you can homeschool. I know you can do, multi-level marketing. I don't think that's a bad word, direct sales, whatever you want to call it, but that's a great job for a homeschooling parent. Both Maria and I know many homeschool parents who are making, really good income with their direct marketing business.
You've always talked about, the side hustle, and we're seeing so many mompreneurs doing amazing things and choosing to stay home with their children. Yeah. And then the children, we've even seen children having some very creative businesses and being part of a whole family kind of dynamic around that. I wanted us to talk a little bit about when there's health issues and there's challenges there, and, how do we overcome that if we truly want to homeschool our children, but, maybe as parents we're facing some things.
Yeah, I think it's a, choice, it's definitely a family choice, because I think sometimes families need to let go and be able to let go of that story that they're going to homeschool all the way through, but health challenges come up, and that's going to be okay, and not to feel guilt with that, because I think that's something to feel bad about yourself for not being there for them, but you need to heal yourself. So definitely taking time for that. On the flip side of that, if there is a health concern, whether it's for the child or whether it's for the parent, I believe that this space that you have created is one that is really kind of like that silver lining, where you get to hang, you get to just be on one rhythm, as opposed to that morning schedule and that pickup schedule and sitting in traffic, or, just the stress of all the different places you have to be and everything when your child's in school, and so I experienced this firsthand when, after the birth of my third, I got fairly sick, and I was homeschooling the two older, I think it was kindergarten and second grade. And it was kind of really beautiful. I believe it was, we all cultivated kind of empathy and taking care of each other, because I needed help taking care of the baby. And then we really learned, you were able to witness that, but like our transformation, nutrition and food, and, and basically, so that was where our homeschool education really dove deep, and just to kind of anatomy, physiology and stuff like that. So it provided for natural learning.
When I think back to that time too, I was watching your family deal with, with your health challenges, and then the kids being able to be there. And I feel as if, yes, you all learned so much together, but you also gelled even more tightly as a family. And I think that's the piece that we're talking about here. We're talking about family schooling. We're talking about family education. And if and when you decide to have your children go into the school system, that's fine. We've done that. But also to have this precious time, this time of early childhood or young childhood, when you can be together as a family. And we've talked a little bit about the obstacles. And yeah, on the last episode, we talked about some of the benefits. But there's these other benefits where you're creating this family time, you're deepening your family culture, the sibling bonds that are created. And this is something that I can't emphasize enough. When I watch homeschool families, the sibling bonds are just so tight. And then also being able to go at the child's paces, you can go deeper into these areas of interest for the whole family. And I know that Sheila, your family, and I know our family did this, and we've seen countless families when there's a certain passion in the family, like music, for example, or science, or travel, or literature, and the families can just work around this whole way of being together. And it's just such a beautiful lifestyle. And so, this whole kind of looking at the deeper emotions that come, whether they're the challenges that we go through and that brings our family together, or the joys that we experience as we go. And, my kids, we just unpacked all the photo albums. And so my grown children and the grandchildren have been looking through the photo albums. And, there were trips that we took that were on a shoestring. I mean, like literally, I shouldn't say that. Actually, one of the cars that we were dealing with, my husband had to put the engine back together with baling wire, I think, but we made it through the Southwest, and we camped along the way. And it was, there were hilarious things, there were terrible things, there were amazing things that happened. And, these are the memories that they'll never forget. And homeschooling allowed us to do some of these things. And, sure, it wasn't luxury travel, but it was character building, and it was so much fun. And it was the time that the kids each got their own tent, and so coming up. And we talk a lot about grit these days. How do we teach our children to be resilient and resourceful, and that grit is this characteristic that really makes adults stand out if it's been cultivated. Well, how do we cultivate grit? And I think it is when we can laugh together, we can cry together, we can have these challenges, and that the kids are part of it. And when we send our children off, they may be having different experiences, which may be incredibly beneficial, but these family experiences together are so beautiful and so rich. So I look at the overcoming obstacles is this incredible opportunity to deepen and richen the whole family culture.
Ah, I just love that. I just love that, because that's why, I look back at those years so fondly, and you can have that same experience when you choose to in when they're teenagers, and it's going to be harder because they're bigger, they're older, but they still need that connection, and I say it again, like connection before correction. It's where you really your teens are having a hard time, if whatever it is, we know teens have a hard time. We know that they're doing that, statistics say. So it's okay to take the reins and say, I'm gonna take them out for a few months. I'm going to take them out for this year. We're going to, and we can homeschool, and we're going to say, like, there are options. We want to show you how to do that, because homeschooling is growing, and homeschooling, you don't have to be a homeschool. You don't have to start in kindergarten to be a homeschooler. It's your choice. It's your right as a parent to say, I think I can do this, or my child needs a break, because school is hard. Life is hard. And, as much as we're trying to cultivate the resilience, the grit, it's also okay to have an in-between space. It's also okay for you as a parent, whether you've been a homeschool parent and you need your in-between space. I knew after 10 years of homeschooling, I needed my space. And I know some people question, putting my daughter in school in third grade in a classroom. And it's just like, because I believe so much in homeschooling. I do believe in homeschooling, but I also believe that, I needed to listen to myself too. I needed to listen to my own body. So a lot kind of we're talking about, but homeschooling, it's family schooling. It's a deep dive into your, self-discovery and everything. So with that, Maria, we are, I think, in the next episode, talk about how to homeschool specifically. We're going to talk about the charter schools, the PSAs and stuff like that.
Yeah, and hopefully we've got you thinking, there's so many stories that we could share over the years, but basically, they've been so heartwarming in general. They've been just stories of incredible fortitude and mostly joy. And so we hope that you continue to consider this if you haven't already. And so, yes, next time we'll be talking more nuts and bolts. So we'll look forward to that.
Yeah, okay. Thanks. See you next time.
Thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode and got a lot out of it.
And if you want to learn more about homeschooling, we are super excited to share our new homeschool handbook, talking about the basics of homeschool, how to set up your homeschool, and even our real life stories of our own homeschool experiences.
So you can check that out at www.themomsiknow.com. And we look forward to hearing more from you and getting your insights and questions.
And if you can, we want you to share this. We want you to share about the homeschool handbook and share about the Moms I Know. And if you can, rate us on iTunes. We would be so appreciative. Thank you. We are so grateful for our listeners like you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.